The galactic medical frigate Starweaver was having a very bad day. Actually, it was having the worst day in its 15 years of service. The ship was falling from the sky, and there was nothing anyone could do about it. Una pressed her back against the wall of the medical bay as the whole ship shook around her. She was a Valari, a species known throughout the galaxy for their silver skin, their gentle nature, and their skill in healing. Her large purple eyes were wide with fear as sparks flew from the ceiling above her. All crew, brace for impact. The captain's voice came through the speakers, but it was cut short by static. Yun had tried to move toward the emergency seats, but the ship tilted suddenly. She fell hard against a metal cabinet. Pain shot through her arm, and she cried out. The ship was spinning now, and she could not tell which way was up or down. Through the small window of the medical bay, she could see the planet Kellen 7 getting closer and closer. It was a jungle world, covered in thick green forests and tall mountains. Beautiful, she thought, but also very dangerous for a crashing ship. There were 12 crew members on the Starweaver. Una knew all of them. There was Captain Bora, a stern but kind Valari woman who had served in the medical corps for 30 years. There was Engineer Teeman, a small furry Corvian who could fix anything with enough time. And there were the others, nurses, doctors, pilots, all working together to bring medical supplies to the outer colonies. And then there was the human. Una had never worked with a human before. In fact, she had never even seen one until Doan had joined their crew 3 months ago. Humans were new to the galactic community. They had only discovered faster-than-light travel 20 years ago, and most species still did not know what to think of them. The Valari Council had called them primitive but promising. The Corvians called them loud and confusing. The Great Hegemony of Tal had simply called them dangerous, and refused to speak more on the matter. Doan was a combat medic. That term alone had confused Una when she first heard it. Combat and medicine were opposite things in her mind. One was about hurting, and the other was about healing. How could they exist in the same person? But humans, she had learned, were full of contradictions. The ship hit something, maybe a mountain peak, maybe a tall tree, and Una was thrown across the room. She crashed into a medical bed, and then the bed crashed into the wall with her still on it. The pain in her arm became much worse. She looked down and saw that it was bent at a wrong angle. Broken, she realized. Her arm was broken. The lights went out. Emergency red lights came on a moment later, casting everything in a bloody glow. Alarms were screaming everywhere, and Una could smell smoke. Then came the final impact. The Starweaver hit the ground, and the world became chaos. Metal screamed as it tore apart. Glass shattered. Equipment flew through the air like deadly birds. Una felt herself being thrown again, and then something very heavy fell on top of her. Everything went dark. When Una opened her eyes, she did not know how much time had passed. Minutes? Hours? The red emergency lights were still on, but they were flickering now. The alarms had stopped, replaced by an eerie silence that was somehow worse. She tried to move and found that she could not. Something heavy was pressing down on her chest and legs. She turned her head slowly and saw that a large piece of the ceiling had fallen on her. Metal beams and broken equipment pinned her to the floor. Her broken arm throbbed with every heartbeat. The pain was incredible, worse than anything she had ever felt. Valari were not built for pain. Their species had evolved on a peaceful world with no predators and no violence. They had low pain tolerance and fragile bodies, perfect for healing others, but terrible for surviving disasters. "Hello?" Una called out, her voice weak and shaky. "Is anyone there? Can anyone hear me?" No response. Only the crackle of small fires and the groaning of damaged metal. Una felt tears forming in her eyes. She was going to die here, trapped under the wreckage of her ship, alone and in pain. She thought of her family back on Valara Prime, her mother, who had been so proud when Yuna had graduated from the medical academy. Her younger brother, who had always said he wanted to travel the stars just like his big sister. She would never see them again. "Help," she whispered, even though she knew no one could hear her. "Please, someone help me." And then she heard footsteps. They were heavy footsteps, not the light, graceful steps of a Valari. They crunched through broken glass and pushed aside fallen debris. Someone was moving through the wreckage, and they were coming toward her. "Hello?" Yuna called again, louder this time. "I am here, in the medical bay. Please help me." The footsteps got closer. A shadow appeared in the doorway of the medical bay, tall and broad. For a moment, Yuna felt fear. She could not see who it was. What if it was not a crew member? What if something from the planet had come to investigate the crash? Then the figure stepped into the flickering red light, and Yuna saw who it was. Duhuan. The human looked terrible. There was blood on his face from a cut on his forehead, and his uniform was torn and dirty. But he was standing, which was more than Yuna could say for herself. He was alive, and he was moving with purpose. His eyes scanned the room quickly, taking in the destruction. When they found Yuna trapped under the debris, something changed in his expression. His jaw tightened. His eyes became sharp and focused. He moved toward her without hesitation. "Yuna," he said, kneeling beside her. His voice was calm, much calmer than she expected. "I need you to tell me where you are hurt." "My arm," Yuna said, fighting back tears. "My arm is broken, and I cannot move. There is something heavy on my chest. I think I might be bleeding inside. It is hard to breathe." Doan nodded. He did not waste time with comforting words or gentle reassurances. Instead, he began examining her with quick, efficient movements. His hands moved over her body, checking for injuries, pressing gently on her stomach and chest. Yuna winced when he touched her left side. "Broken ribs," Doan said. "At least 2, maybe 3. And yes, you are right. There is likely internal bleeding. We need to get you out of here. Now." "How?" Yuna asked. "I cannot move. The debris is too heavy." Doan looked at the metal beams and broken equipment pinning her down. It was a lot of weight. Too much for one person to lift, Yuna thought. They would need tools or help from other crew members. "Have you found anyone else?" she asked. "The captain? Engineer Taman?" A shadow passed over Dohan's face. For just a moment, his calm expression cracked, and Yuna saw something terrible underneath. Then it was gone, hidden behind a mask of professional focus. "I have checked the front of the ship," he said quietly. "The cockpit is gone. The captain and pilots did not survive. I have not found the others yet." Yuna's heart sank. Captain Bora was dead. The pilots were dead. How many others had they lost? "We need to focus on you right now," Dohan continued. "I am going to lift this debris. When I do, I need you to try to slide out." "Can you do that?" Yuna looked at the massive pile of metal on top of her. It had to weigh several hundred pounds. Maybe more. "You cannot lift that," she said. "It is too heavy. We need equipment or I can lift it," Doan said. There was no boasting in his voice, no pride. He said it like a simple fact. "Humans are stronger than we look. Just be ready to move when I tell you." Before Yuna could argue, Doan positioned himself beside the largest beam. He took a deep breath, planted his feet firmly, and gripped the metal with both hands. Then he lifted. Yuna watched in amazement as the human's muscles strained under his torn uniform. His face turned red with effort. Veins stood out on his neck and arms. A sound came from his throat, something between a growl and a scream as he fought against the weight. And slowly, impossibly, the debris began to rise. "Now!" Do-Hwan shouted through gritted teeth. "Move now!" Yuna did not think. She just moved. Ignoring the screaming pain in her arm and chest, she dragged herself backward across the floor. Broken glass cut her skin. Her broken ribs ground against each other with every movement. But she kept going, kept pulling herself free, until finally she was out from under the debris. Do-Hwan dropped the metal with a tremendous crash. He stood there for a moment, breathing hard, his whole body shaking from the effort. Yuna had never seen anyone do anything like that before. No Velari could have lifted that weight. No Corvian. Maybe not even a Tarvian, and they were known for their strength. But this human had done it. He had lifted hundreds of pounds of metal through sheer force of will. Before Yuna could say anything, Do-Hwan was at her side again. He was already examining her, checking her injuries, his hands gentle, despite the power she had just seen them display. "We need to move," he said. "There are fires spreading through the ship, and I smell fuel leaking. This whole place could explode at any moment." "I do not think I can walk," Yuna admitted. The pain was getting worse, and she felt dizzy and weak. The internal bleeding, she knew. If they did not treat it soon, she would die. Do-Hwan did not argue. He simply bent down and lifted her in his arms, careful to support her broken arm and damaged ribs. He held her like she weighed nothing, like she was made of feathers instead of flesh and bone. "Hold on to me," he said. "This is going to be rough." And then he started to run. Yuna had never moved so fast in her life. Do-Hwan sprinted through the wreckage of the Star Weaver, jumping over debris, ducking onto fallen beams, all while carrying her in his arms. The ship groaned and creaked around them. Yuna lay on the soft grass, staring up at the alien sky. The pain in her body was like a living thing, growing stronger with each passing minute. She could feel the blood pooling inside her, pressing against her organs, making it harder and harder to breathe. She was scared. More scared than she had ever been in her life. On Valar Prime, death was a gentle thing. When Velari grew old or sick, they simply faded away, surrounded by family and soft music and the smell of flowers. It was peaceful. It was peaceful. Beautiful, even. This was not peaceful. This was violent and ugly and painful. And Yuna was alone. No, she reminded herself. Not alone. The human was still here. Do-Hwan had gone back to the burning ship to find supplies. He had promised to come back, but what if he did not come back? What if the ship exploded again? What if something in the jungle found him? Yuna had heard stories about the creatures that lived on worlds like Callan 7, predators with sharp teeth and sharper claws. Always hungry, always hunting. The thought made her shiver despite the warm evening air. Time passed. Yuna did not know how much. The sky grew darker, the orange fading to deep purple and then to black. Strange stars appeared overhead, patterns she did not recognize. She was so far from home, and then she heard footsteps. For a terrible moment, she thought it might be something from the jungle. But the footsteps were too even, too purposeful. They were human footsteps. The Vaughn emerged from the darkness, and Yuna felt relief wash over her like a wave. He was carrying things, bags and boxes and equipment so much that she did not know how he could hold it all. "I found some supplies," he said, setting everything down beside her. His voice was tired but satisfied. Medical equipment mostly. Some food and water. A portable shelter. And this, he held up a small device. Yuna recognized it immediately, an emergency beacon. If they could get it working, it would send a signal to any ships in the system. Someone would come. Someone would rescue them. "Is it damaged?" she asked, hope and fear mixing in her voice. Do-hwan examined the beacon carefully. The casing is cracked and some of the internal components are burnt. But I think I can fix it. I just need time and the right tools. He set the beacon aside and turned his attention to her. But first, we need to deal with your injuries. He opened one of the medical bags and began pulling out supplies. Yuna recognized some of them: bandages, pain medication, antiseptic. But there were other things too. Tools and devices that she had never seen used outside of a proper hospital. "Do-hwan," she said slowly, "what are you planning to do?" The human did not answer right away. He was arranging the equipment carefully, setting everything up in a specific order. His movements were precise and practiced, like he had done this many times before. "You have internal bleeding," he finally said. "If we do not stop it, you will die. Maybe in a few hours, maybe less." He looked at her, his eyes serious. "I need to operate." Yuna felt her blood turn to ice. "Operate? Here? You cannot be serious." "I'm very serious. But we are in the middle of a jungle. There is no sterile environment, no proper equipment." "No, I know," Do-hwan interrupted. "It is not ideal. It is dangerous. The chances of infection are high, and I do not have everything I would normally use. But if I do not operate, you will definitely die. If I do operate, you might live." He paused. "It is not a great choice, but it is the only choice." Yuna wanted to argue. She wanted to tell him that this was madness, that no civilized species would attempt such a thing, that he was going to kill her for certain, but she also knew that he was right. She could feel her body failing. She could feel death creeping closer with every labored breath. Without intervention, she would not see the morning. "You have done this before?" she asked quietly. "Operating in conditions like this?" Something flickered in Do-hwan's eyes. Something old and dark and painful. "Yes," he said. "Many times. Before the first joined the medical corps, I was a soldier, a combat medic. My job was to keep people alive on the battlefield, no matter what. I have operated in trenches filled with mud and blood. I have operated in burning buildings and freezing snow. I have operated with nothing but a knife and my bare hands." He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice was softer. "I have lost people. Many people. Friends, brothers in arms. People I could not save, no matter how hard I tried. But I have also saved people who should have died. People who everyone else had given up on. I do not give up, Yuna. It is not in my nature." Yuna looked at this human, this strange, impossible human, and she made her decision. "Okay," she whispered. "Do it. Do whatever you have to do." Do-hwan nodded. His expression became focused and professional, all emotion pushed aside. He moved quickly now, setting up the equipment, preparing the supplies. "I am going to give you something for the pain," he said, pulling out a small injector. "It will not take it all away, but it will help. You need to stay awake during the procedure. Can you do that?" Yuna nodded, not trusting her voice. The injector hissed against her neck, and she felt a cold sensation spread through her body. The pain did not disappear, but it became more distant, like it was happening to someone else. Do-hwan examined her stomach, pressing gently in different places. Yuna winced as he found the source of the bleeding. "The damage is here," he said, pointing to a spot on her left side. "Something punctured you during the crash. Maybe a piece of metal, maybe broken equipment. The bleeding is slow, which is why you have lasted this long. But it is not stopping on its own." He picked up a small device, a medical scanner, and passed it over her body. The screen showed images that Yuna did not fully understand, but Do-hwan studied them carefully. "Okay," he said finally. "I know what I need to do. Are you ready?" "No," Yuna admitted. "But do it anyway." Do-hwan almost smiled at that. Almost. He picked up a small laser scalpel, a tool used for precise surgical cuts. It glowed faintly blue in the darkness. "This is going to hurt," he warned. "The pain medication is not strong enough for surgery. I am sorry. I wish I had something better." Yuna gripped the grass beneath her hands. "Just do it." Do-hwan made the first cut. The pain was like nothing Yuna had ever experienced. It burned through the medication, burning through her body, burning through her mind. She screamed. She could not help it and tried to pull away. But Do-hwan's hand was on her shoulder, holding her down. His grip was firm, but not cruel. "Hey, not so rough," she yelled, tears streaming down her face. "Please, stop. It hurts. It hurts so much." "I know," Do-hwan said, his voice steady and calm. "I know it hurts. But you need to stay still. If you move, I could damage something important. Just breathe. Focus on my voice. You can do this." Yuna wanted to fight him, wanted to push him away and make the pain stop. But some part of her knew that he was right. He was trying to save her life. The pain was terrible, but dying would be worse. She forced herself to breathe. In and out. In and out. Do-hwan continued to work. The minutes stretched into eternity. Yuna lost track of time, lost track of everything except the pain and Do-hwan's calm voice guiding her through it. "I found the bleeder," he said at one point. "I am sealing it now. You are doing great. Just a little longer." Yuna did not feel great. She felt like she was being torn apart from the inside. But she held on. She held on because this impossible human believed she could, and she did not want to prove him wrong. And then, finally, lastly, it was over. Do-hwan set down his tools and let out a long breath. His hands, Yuna noticed, were covered in her blood. Silver Valari blood, bright and shimmering in the starlight. "The bleeding has stopped," he said. "I have closed the wound and sealed the damaged tissue. Barring infection, you should recover." Yuna could not speak. She could only lie there, exhausted and broken, tears still running down her face. Do-hwan began cleaning up, wiping the blood from his hands, putting away the equipment. Then he did something that surprised her. He sat down beside her and took her hand in his. "You did well," he said quietly. "I know that was terrible. I know it hurt more than anything you have ever felt. But you survived it. You are still here." Yuna looked at him through blurry eyes. "Why?" she managed to whisper. "Why are you doing all this? We barely know each other. I am just a stranger." Do-hwan was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was different, softer, more vulnerable. "On Earth," he said, "there is a very old idea. It says that all humans are connected, that when one person suffers, we all suffer. When one person dies, something in all of us dies too." He squeezed her hand gently. "I do not know if that is true for all humans, but it is true for me. Your pain is my pain. Your life matters to me, not because we are friends, but because you are alive. Because you exist. That is enough." Yuna did not understand. In Valari culture, connections were based on family and shared history. You cared for your own people, your own community. Strangers were treated with politeness, but not with the kind of sacrifice Do-hwan had shown. "That sounds exhausting," she said weakly. "Caring about everyone." Do-hwan laughed. It was a tired, quiet laugh, but it was real. "It is," he admitted. "Humans are very tired people. But we would not have it any other way." He stood up and began setting up the portable shelter he had recovered from the ship. It was 3 days had passed since the crash. Yuna was getting stronger, but she was far from healed. She could sit up now and sometimes walk short distances with Do-hwan's help. But her body was still fighting, still struggling to repair the damage from the crash and the surgery. Do-hwan had been working non-stop. Every morning, he would check her wounds, change her bandages, and make sure her vital signs were stable. Then he would go out into the jungle to gather food and water. In the afternoons, he worked on the emergency beacon, trying to repair the damage with limited tools and even more limited parts. Progress was slow. The beacon was badly damaged, and Do-hwan was not an engineer. He was a medic, trained to heal flesh and bone, not circuitry and wiring. But he refused to give up. Every day, he made a little more progress. Every day, rescue came a little bit closer, or so they hoped. Yuna watched him from the entrance of the shelter as he worked on the beacon. His hands moved with careful precision, connecting wires and replacing burnt components. His face was set in concentration, his brow furrowed. He looked tired, she realized. More tired than she had ever seen him. There were dark circles under his eyes, and his movements were slower than they had been on the first day. He was pushing himself too hard. "You should rest," she said. Do-hwan did not look up from his work. "I am fine." "You are not fine. You have barely slept in 3 days. You are going to collapse." "I said I am fine." His voice was sharper than usual, and Yuna flinched at the tone. Do-hwan noticed and softened. "I am sorry. I did not mean to snap at you. It is just, the beacon is almost working. I can feel it. I just need a little more time." Yuna sighed. She understood his urgency. Every hour that passed without a rescue signal was another hour of uncertainty, another hour of danger. But driving himself to exhaustion would not help either of them. "At least eat something," she said, gesturing to the pile of fruit and nuts he had gathered that morning. "You cannot fix the beacon if you pass out from hunger." Do-hwan hesitated, then nodded. He set down his tools and walked over to the food pile. He grabbed a few pieces of fruit, strange purple things that tasted something like earth apples, and began to eat. "These are not bad," he said between bites. "The scanner says they are safe for both human and Velari biology." "Lucky find." Yuna nodded. They had been lucky in many ways since the crash. The jungle, while dangerous, was also full of food and fresh water. The weather had been mild, without any storms or extreme temperatures. And most importantly, they had not encountered any large predators. Yet. "Tell me more about Earth," Yuna said, trying to distract both herself and Do-hwan from their worries. "What is it like?" Do-hwan finished his fruit and leaned back against the tree. A faint smile crossed his face. "Earth is beautiful," he said, "and terrible, all at the same time." He paused, searching for the right words. "We have oceans that stretch from horizon to horizon, so vast you can sail for weeks without seeing land. We have mountains that touch the clouds and deserts where nothing grows. We have forests full of life and cities full of lights. It sounds wonderful. It is. It is. But it is also complicated. Humans have not always been kind to our world. We have polluted it, scarred it, fought wars over it. We have done terrible things to each other and to our home." Yuna frowned. "Why?" Do-hwan shrugged. "Because we are human. We are capable of great good and great evil, sometimes in the same breath. We build hospitals and bombs. We create art and weapons. We save lives and take them." He looked at her, his expression thoughtful. "When we first met aliens, many of your species looked at us and saw only the darkness, the violence, the wars. They called us dangerous, and they were right. We are dangerous. But you are also kind," Yuna said. "You saved my life. You have been taking care of me for 3 days. That is not dangerous." "It is the same thing," Do-hwan said quietly. "The same fire that makes us fight also makes us care. The same strength that lets us kill also lets us heal. We are not good or evil. We are both. Always both. Yuna thought about this. In Valari philosophy, good and evil were separate things, opposites that could not exist in the same being. But humans, it seemed, did not work that way. That sounds exhausting, she said. Do-hwan laughed a real, genuine laugh that surprised them both. You said that before, he said. And yes, it is. But it is also why we keep going. Why we never give up. The same chaos that creates our problems also creates our solutions. We are too stubborn to die, too foolish to surrender, too passionate to stop caring. He stood up and stretched, his joints popping audibly. Speaking of which, I should get back to work on that beacon. But before he could return to his task, a sound stopped him cold. It came from deep in the jungle, a low, rumbling growl that seemed to shake the very air. Yuna felt her heart freeze in her chest. She had never heard that sound before, but every instinct in her body told her what it meant. Predator Do-hwan was already moving. In one fluid motion, he grabbed the small pulse pistol he had recovered from the ship, one of the few weapons that had survived the crash, and positioned himself between Yuna and the jungle. Get inside the shelter, he said, his voice low and calm. Now, what is it? I do not know, but it sounds big. Go, now. Yuna scrambled into the shelter, her healing stomach protesting with every movement. She pressed herself against the far wall, trying to make herself as small as possible. Through the opening of the shelter, she could see Do-hwan standing guard. His body was tense, coiled like a spring. His eyes scanned the tree line, looking for any sign of movement. Another growl, closer this time. Yuna saw the bushes at the edge of their camp begin to shake. And then it appeared. The creature was massive, at least 3 meters tall at the shoulder, with a body built like a tank. Its skin was covered in thick scales the color of dark stone, and its mouth was full of teeth as long as Yuna's forearm. 6 eyes, arranged in a circle around its head, fixed on the two of them with hungry intelligence. Yuna had never seen anything like it. It was like something out of a nightmare. For a long moment, no one moved. The creature studied them, and they studied it. The air was thick with tension, with the promise of violence. Then the creature charged. It moved faster than something that big had any right to move. 1 second, it was at the edge of the jungle, and the next, it was on top of them. Its massive jaws snapped shut where Do-hwan had been standing, but Do-hwan was no longer there. He had rolled aside at the last moment, dodging the attack with reflexes that seemed almost supernatural. As he rolled, he raised his pulse pistol and fired. The shot hit the creature's side, burning through scales and flesh. It roared in pain and anger, spinning around to face its attacker. Do-hwan fired again, and again, and again. Each shot hit its mark, but the creature kept coming. It was too big, too tough. The small pulse pistol was designed for personal defense, not for hunting monsters. The creature lunged forward and caught Do-hwan with one of its massive claws. He flew through the air and slammed into a tree with a sickening crunch. The pistol fell from his hand. Do-hwan! Yuna screamed. The human lay still for a moment, long enough that Yuna thought he might be dead. But then he moved, pushing himself up on shaking arms. Blood ran down his face from a wound on his head. His breathing was ragged and wet, suggesting broken ribs. The creature approached him slowly now, confident that its prey was finished. Its 6 eyes gleamed with anticipation, and then Do-hwan did something unthinkable. He laughed. It was not a laugh of joy or humor. It was something else entirely, a wild, defiant sound that seemed to echo through the jungle. The creature paused, confused by this strange behavior. Do-hwan used that moment to pull out a small knife from his belt. It was a pathetic weapon against such a massive beast, barely bigger than his hand. But he held it like it was a sword, like it was all he needed. Is that all you have got? He said, his voice rough with pain. I have fought scarier things than you before breakfast. The creature roared and charged again. What happened next was almost too fast to follow. Do-hwan waited until the last possible second, then threw himself forward, not away from the creature, but toward it. He slid under its massive body, his knife flashing in the dim light. The blade found a soft spot in the creature's underbelly and sank. Deep, the creature screamed. It was a horrible sound, high and piercing, full of agony. It twisted and thrashed, trying to dislodge the thing that was hurting it. But Do-hwan held on, twisting the knife, pushing it deeper. Blood thick and green poured from the wound. The creature's movements became more desperate, more erratic. It stumbled, crashed into a tree, stumbled again, and then, with one final shudder, it fell. The ground shook with the impact. The creature twitched once, twice, and was still. Silence fell over the jungle. Do-hwan pulled himself out from under the creature's body. He was covered in green blood, his own red blood mixing with it to create something that looked almost purple. He could barely stand. He could barely breathe, but he was alive. He stumbled toward the shelter, toward Yuna. Each step looked like it took everything he had. Are you okay? He managed to ask Dot why Yuna stared at him in disbelief. He had just killed a monster with a knife. He was bleeding from a dozen wounds, clearly had broken bones, could barely stand, and he was asking if she was okay. I am fine, she said, her voice trembling. But you, Do-hwan, you need help. You are badly hurt. He made it to the shelter and collapsed at the entrance. His breathing was shallow and fast. His eyes were starting to glaze. Do-hwan drifted in and out of consciousness for 2 days. Sometimes he would wake up and look around, confused and disoriented. He would ask questions that did not make sense asking for people who were not there, speaking in languages Yuna did not understand. Then he would fall back into unconsciousness, and Yuna would be alone again. She talked to him constantly. She told him about her life on Valar Prime, about her family, about her dreams and fears. She described the jungle around them, the strange plants and animals, the way the light changed as the suns moved across the sky. She did not know if he could hear her, but the silence was too heavy, too frightening, so she filled it with words. My mother always said I was too curious for my own good, Yuna said, adjusting the bandage on Do-hwan's chest. She wanted me to stay on Valar Prime, to work in a nice, safe hospital. But I wanted to see the stars. I wanted to explore, to discover, to have adventures. She laughed bitterly. Well, I got my adventure. Not quite what I was hoping for. Do-hwan stirred but did not wake. You know what is strange? I always thought humans were so different from us. So alien, but lying here with you, talking to you. You are not that different at all. You have dreams. You have fears. You care about people. You get hurt. You bleed. She looked at her hands, still stained with his red blood. Red blood, she murmured. Such a strange color. Valari blood is silver, you know? Like starlight. My people always thought that made us special, made us closer to the heavens. She shook her head. But your red blood saves lives just as well as our silver blood. Maybe better. You gave so much of it to save me. The second day was the hardest. Do-hwan developed a fever. His body temperature soared, and he began to shiver uncontrollably. Yuna did everything she could: cold compresses, fever reducers, constant monitoring, but nothing seemed to help. The fever climbed higher and higher. She was terrified. If the fever did not break, he would die. And if he died, she would be alone on this planet with no way to call for help and no way to survive. But more than that, more than the fear of being alone, more than the fear of dying, she did not want to lose him. In just a few days, this strange human had become important to her. He had saved her life, yes, but it was more than that. He had shown her a different way of looking at the universe, a way where courage and compassion were the same thing, a way where giving up was simply not an option. She did not want to go back to a universe without that perspective. "You have to fight," she whispered, pressing a cool cloth to his forehead. "You have to keep fighting. You told me humans never give up. You told me it is not in your nature. So prove it. Prove it right now." The fever raged on. That night, Una did something she had not done since she was a child. She prayed. Valari did not believe in gods, exactly. They believed in the great pattern, the idea that all things in the universe were connected, that every action rippled out and affected everything else. It was not a religion so much as a philosophy, a way of understanding the cosmos. But tonight, Una prayed. She prayed to whatever might be listening, the pattern, the stars, the universe itself. "Please," she whispered, "please let him live. He is a good person, a kind person. He deserves to see his home again. He deserves to see his family. Please, please let him live." She did not expect an answer. She did not expect anything to change. But sometime in the night, the fever broke. Una noticed it when she woke from a fitful sleep. Dohan was no longer shivering. His skin was no longer burning hot. His breathing was deeper, more regular. She checked his temperature with the medical scanner. Normal. His fever had dropped back to normal. Relief washed over her like a wave. She collapsed beside him, tears streaming down her face, and cried until she had no tears left. He was going to live. Against all odds, against all expectations. He was going to live. When Dohanuli woke up properly, the first thing he said was, "Water." Una scrambled to get him some. She helped him sit up and held the container to his lips while he drank. He drank slowly, carefully, like someone who had not tasted water in days, which, she supposed, he had not. "How long?" he asked when he finished. 2 days since the creature attacked. Almost a week since the crash. Dawan closed his eyes and took a deep breath. "The beacon? I do not know. I have not touched it. I was too busy keeping you alive." He nodded slowly. "Thank you for taking care of me." Una almost laughed. "You saved my life first. I was just returning the favor." Dawan looked at her for a long moment. His eyes were clear now, focused. The confusion and delirium of the fever were gone. "You did more than that," he said quietly. "I remember. Some of it. I remember you talking to me, telling me about your family, telling me to fight." He paused. It helped. Knowing someone was there. Knowing someone cared. Una felt her cheeks grow warm. "I just did what you would have done. Maybe. But that does not make it less meaningful." He reached out and took her hand. His grip was weak, but it was warm and alive. "We make a good team, you and I," Una smiled. "We do. An unexpected team." Over the next few days, they settled into a new routine. Dowan was recovering, but slowly. His wounds were healing, but he was still weak and tired easily. Una took over many of the tasks he had been doing, gathering food, fetching water, keeping watch. She was surprised by how capable she was. On Valara Prime, she had never needed to survive in the wilderness. She had never needed to fight or hunt or build shelters. But here, necessity had awakened skills she did not know she had. Or maybe it was not about skills at all. Maybe it was about something else, something she had learned from watching Dowan. The refusal to give up. The determination to keep going, no matter what. Dowan worked on the beacon when he had the strength. Progress was slow, but it was progress. Each day, he got a little closer to making it work. "Almost there?" he said one afternoon, frowning at the device's innards. I think I have found the problem. One of the power cells was cracked. I need to bypass it and reroute the power through the backup system. Can you do that? I think so, maybe, if I do not accidentally blow us both up. He grinned, and Una realized it was the first time she had seen him smile since the creature attack. They ate dinner together that evening, more of the purple fruit, some edible roots, and a small animal Una had managed to trap using a design Do-hwan had taught her. It was not much, but it was enough thought as they ate. Do-hwan told her stories about Earth, about the oceans and mountains and forests, about cities that glowed with light at night, visible from space, about animals as strange and wonderful as anything on Kellan 7. There is a creature called a mantis shrimp, he said, his eyes bright with memory. It is small, you could hold it in your hand, but its claws can punch with the force of a bullet. It can break glass. It can break bones. And it can see colors that humans cannot even imagine. Una shook her head in wonder. Earth sounds like an amazing place. It is. It is also terrifying. But that is what makes it beautiful. He looked up at the stars. I miss it sometimes. My family, my friends. The smell of rain on hot pavement. The taste of my mother's cooking. Do you regret leaving? Do-hwan thought about this for a long moment. No, he finally said. Joining the medical corps, traveling among the stars, meeting people like you. I would not trade that for anything, even if it means dying on a planet far from home. You are not going to die, Una said firmly. We are going to get rescued. We are going to go home. Do-hwan smiled at her. I believe you. That night, they sat outside the shelter together, looking up at the alien stars. The moons of Kellan 7 hung in the sky, 3 of them, in different sizes and colors, casting strange shadows on the jungle below. Do you know what I have learned from all this? Una said, What? That I was wrong about humans. Before I met you, I thought your species was strange and frightening. I did not understand why you did the things you did. But now, Una turned to look at him. Now I think humans might be the bravest species in the galaxy. Not because you are not afraid, but because you are afraid and you keep going anyway. You fight against impossible odds. You refuse to surrender. You care about people you barely know, enough to risk your life for them. She paused, gathering her thoughts. The Valari are wise, she continued. We have studied the universe for thousands of years. We have learned much about science and art and philosophy, but we have never learned how to be brave like you. We have never learned how to keep going when everything seems hopeless. Do-hwan was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft. Bravery is not about not being afraid, he said. It is about being afraid and choosing to act anyway. Everyone is afraid sometimes. The difference is what you do with that fear. You sound like a teacher. My father was a teacher. Maybe I picked up a few things. He smiled. He always said that courage is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. Every time you face your fear and do not run away, you become a little bit braver. Una thought about this. She had been afraid so many times since the crash. Afraid of dying. Afraid of being alone. Afraid of the jungle and its monsters. But she had kept going. She had kept fighting. Maybe she was braver than she thought. I think I would lick. The rescue ship arrived 3 days after Do-hwan activated the beacon. Una was the first to hear it. A low humming sound that grew louder and louder until it drowned out all the noise of the jungle. She ran out of the shelter, her heart pounding, and looked up at the sky. A ship was descending through the clouds. It was a galactic medical cruiser, much bigger than the Starweaver had been. Its hull gleamed white and blue in the sunlight, and on its side was painted the symbol of the medical corps, a spiral of stars wrapped around a healing hand. "Dowan!" she shouted. "They are here! They found us!" Dowan emerged from the shelter, moving slowly but steadily. He had improved a lot over the past few days, but he was still far from fully healed. When he saw the ship, a smile spread across his face, the biggest smile Yuna had ever seen him wear. "We made it," he said softly. "We actually made it." The ship landed in a clearing about 100 meters from their camp. Before the engines had even fully powered down, the doors opened and medical personnel came running out. Valari doctors and nurses, Corvian technicians, even a few species Yuna did not recognize, all rushing toward them with stretchers and equipment. Valari doctor reached them first. She was older, with silver hair and kind eyes, and she immediately began scanning them with a medical device. "I am Dr. Mina," she said quickly. "Which one of you is more seriously injured?" Yuna pointed at Dowan. "He was attacked by a creature 4 days ago. Broken ribs, internal bleeding, multiple lacerations. I did what I could, but—" "You did well," Dr. Mina interrupted, looking at the scan results. "Very well, considering the circumstances. His wounds are healing properly. No signs of infection." She looked at Yuna with new respect. "Are you a medical professional?" "A nurse," Yuna said. "I trained at the Valara Prime Medical Academy." Dr. Mina nodded. "It shows. You saved his life." They were loaded onto stretchers and carried to the ship, despite Dowan's protest that he could walk. Inside, the medical cruiser was clean and bright and filled with advanced equipment. It felt like paradise after the primitive conditions of the jungle. Yuna was placed in a comfortable bed, and doctors began examining her properly for the first time since the crash. They checked her wounds, ran scans, and asked her countless questions about her injuries and treatment, but she could only think about one thing. "The beacon signal," she said to the doctor examining her. "How long was it broadcasting before you found us?" "About 72 hours, the doctor replied. "We were responding to another emergency in a nearby system when we picked up your signal. You were very lucky. If we had been any farther away, it would have taken much longer to reach you." 72 hours. 3 days. After everything they had been through, help had been only 3 days away. Yuna closed her eyes and let out a long breath. They had survived. Against all odds, they had survived. Over the next few hours, Yuna and Dowan were treated, fed, and given clean clothes. The doctors were impressed by how well they had managed in such difficult conditions. The field surgery Dowan had performed on Yuna was especially noted. Several doctors gathered around to study the scans, amazed that such a procedure had succeeded outside of a proper medical facility. "This is remarkable work," one of them said. "This kind of surgery requires incredible skill and precision. And you performed it in the jungle with minimal equipment." Dowan, lying in the bed next to Yuna's, just shrugged. "I did what needed to be done." When they were stable enough to talk, the ship's captain came to see them. She was a tall Velari woman named Commander Jizu, with sharp eyes and an air of authority. She carried a datapad and had the look of someone who needed answers. "I am glad you are both recovering," she said, pulling up a chair. "But I need to understand what happened to the Starweaver. We received no distress signal before your beacon was activated. The ship simply vanished from our tracking systems." Yuna told her everything. The engine failure, the crash, the destruction of the ship and the loss of most of the crew, the struggle to survive in the jungle, the creature attack. Commander Jisu listened carefully, taking notes on her datapad. When Yuna finished, the commander turned to Dowan. "Lieutenant," she said, "the doctors tell me that Nurse Yuna should have died. Her injuries after the crash were severe internal bleeding, broken bones, organ damage. Without immediate surgery, she had only hours to live. And yet she is here now, talking to me. Explain how that is possible. Do-hwan met her gaze steadily. I operated. You operated. In the jungle. With salvaged equipment. Yes, that is. Not standard procedure. No, Commander. It is not. Jisoo set down her datapad and studied him for a long moment. In the medical corps, we have rules, protocols, standard procedures. They exist for good reasons, to ensure quality of care, to minimize risk, to protect both patients and practitioners. Do-hwan said nothing. What you did violated almost every rule in our handbook, Jisoo continued. You performed major surgery without proper facilities, without sterile conditions, without backup. If Nurse Yuna had died on your operating table, you would face severe consequences. I understand, but she did not die. Jisoo's expression softened slightly. She is alive because you chose to ignore the rules and do what you thought was right. That takes courage and skill. She paused. I want to understand why. Why did you take such a risk? Do-hwan thought about this for a moment before answering. On Earth, he said, there is a concept called the Hippocratic Oath. It is a promise that doctors make when they begin their careers. The most important part says, first, do no harm. But there is another interpretation, one that I have always believed in. Do everything you can to help, even when the odds are against you. He looked at Yuna. She was dying. If I did nothing, she would definitely die. If I operated, she might die. But she also might live. The choice was not really a choice at all. It was the only option I had. Jisoo nodded slowly. You chose action over inaction. Risk over certainty. Yes, humans, we are not good at accepting defeat. We fight even when the fight seems hopeless. Sometimes we lose, but sometimes we win. And those victories make all the difference. The commander was quiet for a while. Then she stood up and extended her hand toward Do-hwan. Lieutenant, she said, I have served in the medical corps for 30 years. I have seen doctors from 100 different species. Many of them are skilled. Many are dedicated. But I have never seen anyone do what you did. She smiled. The galaxy could use more people like you. Do-hwan shook her hand. The galaxy could use more people willing to take chances. Over the next few days, as the ship traveled back to the nearest space station, Yuna had a lot of time to think. She thought about everything that had happened. The crash, the survival, the friendship that had grown between her and Do-hwan. She thought about what she had learned, about humans, about herself, about what it meant to be brave. When they finally arrived at Station 12, they were met by a crowd of people. Journalists wanting to tell their story. Medical officials wanting to learn from their experience. Family members of the Starweaver crew wanting to hear about their loved ones' final moments. It was overwhelming. And Yuna was grateful when they were finally given a quiet room to rest. But there was one more thing she needed to do. She found Do-hwan on the observation deck, looking out at the stars. He looked better now. His wounds were almost fully healed, and the exhaustion that had mocked his face for so long was finally fading. I have been thinking, she said, standing beside him. About what? About my report. The official statement about what happened on Kellan 7. They want me to explain how I survived. What you did. She paused. I do not know what to say. Do-hwan turned to look at her. Tell them the truth. The truth is impossible. The truth is that a human combat medic performed wilderness surgery on an alien nurse, using salvaged equipment and his bare hands. The truth is that he fought a monster with a knife. The truth is that he refused to die even when his body was failing. And? Yuna shook her head. And they will not believe it. They will think I am exaggerating. They will think the trauma affected my memory. They will think, she trailed off, They will think humans are impossible, Do-hwan finished for her. Yes, Do-hwan smiled. Let them. Yuna did not understand. What do you mean? For 20 years, the galaxy has been trying to figure out what to make of humans. Some species think we are dangerous. Some think we are primitive. Some think we are just strange. He turned back to the stars. But the truth is, we are all of those things. And more. We are dangerous and primitive and strange. We are also kind and brave and stubborn beyond all reason. He looked at her again, his eyes serious. Tell them the truth, Yuna. Tell them exactly what happened. Let them decide what to believe. Let them wonder about humans. Let them be confused and amazed, and maybe a little bit frightened. He smiled. That is what we do. We make people think. We challenge expectations. We refuse to fit into neat little categories. Yuna thought about this. Then she nodded. Double quotes, the truth then. The truth. When the official inquiry convened 3 days later, Yuna stood before the panel and told her story. She told them about the crash and the surgery. She told them about the creature and the knife. She told them about the fever and the vigil and the beacon. And she told them why she had survived.